Hey there, Bridget Dogoff, Conscious of Economics and Urban Farm Project. Just wanted to do a really quick video. So in the last 4 months, having been self-employed in private practice for traditional osteopathic work, I work on people and animals, and suffered 4 huge, legal attacks and battles with the state of Nevada. Which, ended up being a standoff because I learned, basically common law and started going after them. I refused to be threatened, done nothing wrong. Never was ever a complaint against me. But, it all kind of started happening during, the recession, if you want to call it, started happening in 2009. So, the deal is that you can't sue these people. So you're never going to recover what you lost. No, I went to like 25 attorneys in town. Nobody would touch it with a 10-foot pole because it was alternative medicine. Never injured anybody, never had a complaint against me. So anyway, it just kind of destroyed a practice. And, my practice at one time, I was booked out 3 months in advance, and I saw, 6 to 7 people a day, sometimes 6 days a week. And now, struggling, pretty much living out of my car, all that. But there's a lot of people who are in really bad straits. And I don't think that the government has any idea. And they're not going to tell the truth, and they're going to just continue to lie. So one of the things I was reading about Zimbabwe currency the other day, and one of the reasons that it became worthless was because the people didn't want it in Zimbabwe and they weren't willing to use it. And so because there were other types of currencies, they adopted the US dollar and some other currencies, which made basically the Zimbabwe note or currency like worthless because they had no confidence in it. Well, now, a lot of American people are liquidating their assets and their pensions and getting them off the market, which they should. Some really serious stuff is getting ready to hit the fan. And I'm not really sure that there's going to be, any way to save it. I was reading an article today on RT News about, more Americans are buying gold. Now, if you buy gold and you have solid gold, you're going to save more and spend less, which means there's going to be people who have money are going to be spending way less in the marketplaces. So there's going to be less currency, to go around because their currency now is tied up in the gold. There is a huge amount of people, even people I know who refuse to deal with the economy or who opt out of the system now are involved with cryptocurrencies, and they're utilizing them, to make money in cryptocurrency, which is helping them to pay for things that they need to get paid for. I mean, blogs, farming, all kinds of different currencies or cryptocurrencies are coming up, which is going to make the US dollar more worthless because people are only going to buy and purchase things which cryptocurrency will pay for. So probably not in the U.S. market because the U.S. Has not put together a really good system. Russia right now, their biggest online world marketplace, is moving to accepting cryptocurrency. So you could buy whatever you wanted that you needed through Russia and their marketplace with your cryptocurrency and have it shipped to your house in the U.S., which totally bypasses the whole U.S. system. So there are a lot of things going on, I think, that people should really kind of be aware of, and most are not because they're trying to pay a mortgage. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day. I think if more Americans really knew what was going on, they would stop paying their mortgage. They would stop paying all their bills and starving themselves, and they would use that money to get a storage shed, put the important things that they need in storage, and start stockpiling food in storage. I mean, the only thing that's really going to matter at the end of the day is if you have a food storage and you have, water, good drinking water or water purifiers so that you can go down to the river or ponds or whatever and purify the water so that you can drink it so you don't die. So for the last 4 months, I've been stockpiling food, and I go to food banks here in the Reno area. And I was kind of at a point where I was forced to go to food banks because I've been self-employed. And in the past, I've been in the highest tax bracket there was, which is self-employment, which means that I not only just pay the regular taxes, but I also have to pay a huge amount of tax to be self-employed. Well, 2009, I kind of moved out of that system and went into more of a corporate kind of rate. But the thing is that in 2009, that's when the state started coming after me. So like, there's no money to even put in a bank account because, there's no money. And I've been pretty much, living in my car or out of my car since 2006. So, I'm coming up on like 12 years. And nothing I do, I work like 90 to 100 hours a week. And a lot of the work is free because people can't pay for it. Work on marketing plans and business plans and do a lot of consulting or, grassroots things that are going to be super important. And alternative healthcare. I work with people all over the globe. And most people can't really afford the information or the help. So I end up, gifting it, or they put it on the back end, and maybe someday when their projects work out, like I could get paid or whatever. So I mean, it's better than sitting around with my thumb up my derriere and waiting for someone or something to save me, and try to educate the people who want to be educated on lots of different kind of avenues that I work in and I specialize in, so that people have an alternative understanding so that they can start where they're at, creating a more functional lifestyle for themselves instead of being asleep at the wheel and then all of a sudden out of work and then going through all the processes of starving, not being able to feed your family, getting evicted from your house being foreclosed on, not having a standby. And it's interesting because, people are kind of oblivious, living in a bubble of, well, that can't happen. That's not going to happen. It is happening. And the fact that they get rid of all the homeless people, for example, after Oprah did the Tent City piece, in 2008, all the homeless were under Arnold Schwarzenegger as governor, were called to go to Cal Expo, and they took their cars and their RVs and tents and everything with them because they were promised to get help. Well, they went missing. 30,000 homeless people went missing. All their belongings were taken. They were loaded up. Nobody to this day knows where they went. Me and a whole bunch of friends went up there because we heard about it, and everything on the Delta where people had been living was bulldozed over. Everything was cleaned up as if these people had never been there. These were the middle class. These were the people who just lost their houses, right? Who lost their places to live, who lost their jobs when the 2008 slip happened economically. So I've been kind of watching because I'm on kind of the skids, here on kind of like, kind of on the homeless, more on the homeless side. So I pay attention to what's going on. In Reno, last year, they removed 3,000 homeless people who were living kind of on the Dickerson, Keystone area part of Reno. You just watched all the police come in. At that time, I was kind of living over there. I was helping a friend who had an apartment. So every day I was going over there and I was watching the police all of a sudden start attacking the homeless, handcuffing them, throwing them into big, sheriff's vans, Reno vans, paddy wagons, I guess you want to call them. And then and then taking their stuff, literally having their stuff towed away as if, they weren't there. So you saw like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of homeless people pushing carts, and then in 3 weeks, nothing, zero, bye. So where do these people go? Where are they? I mean, they don't bus them to other towns anymore. I mean, probably a small amount of them, but they're putting them somewhere. And we should all be really concerned about where that somewhere is and where these people are. Because if they don't have rights under the Constitution, you don't have rights under the Constitution, you're not free. So you got to kind of rethink whatever you think is going on. So recently, because I really try hard not to, rely on a system. I don't like my identification out there. I don't like being tracked or known, what's going on with me. So starting about 4 months ago, October, I started having to go to the food banks, and I needed to get a food bank card and all that kind of stuff. So I have to go to the food banks. I have to eat. And I have to have a diverse diet. And I cannot qualify for food stamps because I've been self-employed. There's no unemployment for me. Anyone who is a true American, a constitutional American, who is a producer, who produces and who works and asks for nothing, who has even paid taxes, we do not qualify for any help with the government at all. So we can't really qualify for loans. I've paid for my whole education. I've probably spent about $85,000 over my life. I have, a pretty good education, and it all surrounds kind of health and all aspects of health, including soil restoration and growing food and eating nutritionally dense as a baseline. Went back to school for biodynamic farming to grow plant medicine so that I could make plant medicines, and so people could have an alternative to drug medicines, right? Or to pharma meds. So I'm more into creating a pharmacy, Farmcy, instead of a pharmacy with the PH at the beginning. And you'd be surprised at what the food banks give out right now, because nobody is buying the food. So the stores get the food on credit. Okay, so this is another thing that needs to come into play that you have to understand. Is 2 weeks ago, the U.S. was downgraded internationally credit to BBB+. We're in the same boat now credit-wise as Peru, Colombia, a lot of these other countries, which means we have one of the worst credit ratings. So grocery stores are not going to be continuing to have credit to buy food, to bring into the U.S. so that we will hopefully go to the grocery store and we will purchase it at the grocery store, right? The credit is going bye-bye. 90% of all of our food is brought into the United States on credit. And a lot of times, well, obviously we got a downgrade in credit means nobody's paying their bills. Nobody's paying their bills to farmers in Mexico, to products that are brought in from China, to whatever else. So stores buy everything on credit, and then they hope that you'll purchase it, and then maybe they'll be able to pay back outside countries for, bringing the food in. So there's a pretty big possibility that the food is going to run out in the grocery stores because we're a bad credit risk now, which means all businesses in the U.S. are bad credit risks. So, people kind of have to get a grip on what's going on. Nobody is really paying attention at all. So, second thing, you go to the food banks and there's lots of, really great organic produce sometimes. And it's kind of shocking, like how much food there is. But this is the deal. Means that people don't have the money to buy the food in the grocery stores anymore. And so when everything's getting ready to expire, they have to give it away. And most of them give it away to charities, right? Which are food banks that could actually feed people. So this shows you, or shows me, that we're not probably going to have food coming into our grocery stores very much longer because people can't afford to buy it, which means that the grocery store can't pay off the credit line. And we have an international rating now of BBB plus as the United States because nobody pays their bills in the United States. Nobody. And they have these huge lines of credit, right, to go get whatever the hell that they want, but they never pay for what they need to pay for. So it's coming, it's coming to an end, and you can see it at the base level. Within the last 4 months, and I also, on Monday nights with Food Not Bombs, we feed the homeless. We all make meals, we take it down, and we serve the homeless every Monday night. We're talking the homeless. The homeless that live under the bridge. Now, they don't have IDs. You have to have an ID to go to a food bank because you have to be listed and monitored by the government because of the subsidies, right? I think churches get partial of $4 billion in subs, or no, 900 million, and the churches break it up. So most of the churches that are doing food banks are on these programs. So you have to be, you have to have an ID, and they put you in and they list you for when you go into a food bank to get food. Now, really homeless people don't have that option. They usually don't have ID. Their lives have so far fallen apart that they don't even have any belongings, and they own nothing. So they can't even get the basics that are needed. They can't get a shower. They have no access to fresh water. And then, like the fire department and the police department and all these people get pissed off because the homeless are making fires, wherever their homeless encampments are on the river, and then it catches fire and they're all mad. And it's because, guess what? At some point, you got to boil water, right? At some point, if you don't have access to the things, and just because they ship you somewhere doesn't mean that the problem is going away. It's accelerating. And I think people would be freaked out if they really saw and they really knew what was going on. And they don't. And they don't care. We invite people all the time to come down to the Food Not Bombs and bring a meal and see what's going on. Talk to the people. What's going on with the people. Because you know what? There's veterans. There are, young pregnant women. There are a lot of people that you do not assume would be homeless. And a lot of these people don't have cars or vehicles. They don't even have tents. So you do the math. Anyway, in the last 4 months, I have watched the food bank lines quadruple. And these are people that are not clean. These are people who may have a shelter, maybe living in their car, but, are not getting a shower every day. And they're coming in masses. And it isn't because people are hearing about the food banks. The food banks have been around for a long, long time. It's because more and more people are losing their house. More and more people don't have money for food. More and more people are being cut off from the welfare systems. And a lot of them don't qualify. I don't qualify for food stamps any way, shape, or form because I've been self-employed. So I don't qualify for anything. And I don't want their Medicare. I don't want to go see one of their doctors. I don't want them giving me a vaccine or a pap smear or radiating my boobs and, so that I can get cancer and die. Because most breast cancer is caused from mammograms. The point focus of radiation that goes into your breast causes cancer. And then the way that they mash it, if you do have a tumor in there, it's going to explode, and then you have mastocystic cancer. So, I don't want to have my womb scraped for a pap smear. The last one I had for, I don't know, let me think. 18 years ago, I bled for 3 days after. You know what? You're damaging and scarring my uterus. And you know what? That is going to cause me to get cancer. It's going to cause me to have a lot of physical problems. It's going to make once the scar tissue is on there, the scar tissue is just going to make my, monthly cycles way worse and super harmful. And it's just going to throw my hormones all over the place. It's the same thing like if you have a fusion or some kind of surgery in your back and they cut through those tissues and now you have a scar there. The scar creates more pain than what the initial problem was, and you can't go back. So I don't want their health care. I don't want to go to their doctors. I don't want to be treated. I stay with a plant-based diet. I use natural everything. I get, as much rest as I can. And I try to stay in as much of a balance as I can. Mind you, the chemtrails are horrible. They're whitening out the skies. A lot of people think that they have gallbladder problems and other problems, but what it is they have heavy metal poisoning. And that's another thing with the medical system. Even if you ask for a heavy metal test, they don't want to give it to you because they know that the chemtrails are raising the heavy metal chemical exposure, which is causing kidney failure, dizziness, nauseous. These are all heavy metal poisons. And this is how your body reacts when it's poisoned. So anyway, I could go on and on and on. And I'm sorry I haven't been posting videos. I just really haven't felt proactive about it. And I've just been doing a lot of my own healing work. I was majorly attacked 3 nights ago. At first, I thought it was a panic attack, like maybe one of the worst on record in my life. Now, well, right after it happened, I realized that it was we'll just call it a darkness attack. It doesn't even really matter how it got to me, but I could feel it coming at me. And I'm pretty sure I died. Let's just say that my body died. But because of all my shamanic training, my consciousness in my body, my spirit held on and wrote it out. So the last few days, I feel my body feels terrible. And the consciousness in me is trying to move it. And it's missing a bunch of information and data because the body died. And so now I have to keep working with the body in order to get the body kind of back up to speed. So I'm kind of working on that, but it's kind of a slow process. So anyway, so I suffered like a huge attack. It was so bad that once it grabbed me, there was somebody with me watching who was really freaked out. And I ended up getting into the bathtub with boiling hot water because I wasn't cold, but I felt cold. This is when I died. And then I went into convulsions. Literally. The next day, every muscle in my body was so, even my jaw. But I ended up staying in the tub for several hours and just keep putting hot water back into it until I could kind of adhere myself back to my body. And I have just amazing people of just higher consciousness and vibration, that all different walks of traditional, original medicine people and healers and shamans in my life that, I made a shout out right after it all happened. And they all kind of came in and assisted me, and they're still assisting me now. So I still kind of getting these cold waves, just a reminder, that my body's still trying to come back. But it's, the last few months, just have been, kind of a really tough time. And sometimes you can't really express uh, what you're going through. And I find that it's really hard to express in a public arena what I'm going through anyway. So lately, I've just been really relying on, 4 people in my life who understand all this stuff. And so that I have people to communicate with, they have somebody to communicate with. But things are getting more and more intense. And we really need to pay attention to what's going on. And we really need to try to stay as balanced as we possibly can in our own space and just focus in on working on ourselves. That way, if things go really bad or the planet's blown up or whatever else, you're assured that your spirit is not going to be recaptured in to the whole heaven experience, tractor beam experience, so that it's a forced incarnation. You'll be able, if you work on yourself and you focus on a really good spiritual path and you find a really good teacher who can teach you simple tools and practices and you practice them, you're going to be able to defeat a lot of it. Like me, I would have not been able to resurrect myself out of this last attack that I had. Probably one of, I'm going to call it the second strongest in my life on record. I've had one that was way much worse when I was young. But most people wouldn't have survived it because they don't have enough practice. In shamanism, traditional, original, we work on dying and coming back to life. I mean, that's kind of like the basis of shamanism, because you have to mentally die sometimes in order to resurrect yourself. You have to emotionally die in order to resurrect yourself. You have to physically die sometimes in order to resurrect yourself. So, and you have to spiritually die sometimes in order to resurrect yourself. So, and like medicine, I mean, what would have happened if I would have been in an ambulance and taken away? Who knows what they might have said that, happened to me. And you know what? It doesn't even really matter because they don't even really know, right? So also, too, one thing I want to leave you with is that recently there are people that I know, higher conscious people, that are getting phone calls from phone numbers in their local area that aren't even real phone numbers. If you look the phone numbers up, they'll say that these phone numbers don't even exist. So what I want to tell you is that you better be careful about answering your phones, because they can send an electronic signal if you answer your phone through the phone to stop your heart and kill you. This is what they do to a lot of people. You see it a lot: heart attack, heart, drug overdose, whatever they want to call it. But they can electronically stop your heart. So be really careful about answering your phone. Just, if they leave a message and then them, call them back. If you know the person or the number, answer your phone. But you know what? We're just really in a time period where, let's just say, we're hitting the bottom. And there's a lot of things at the bottom that are going to fight for survival on different levels and dimensions. And just call it the battle. I mean, I like the Lord of the Rings when they battle for Middle Earth, right? They're going to fight for Middle Earth. And they try to raise as many humans as possible. But then you have the tree beings, and you have all these other beings that, and races that start to get involved, to battle the darkness, because the darkness becomes on equal footing and is growing exponentially in the masses. So anyway, not trying to be a doom and gloomer, but things are going to get really radical. I'm already seeing how radical they're getting on lots of different dimensions, and even in 3D, 4D, 5D. So anyway, just be really careful. Keep yourself awake. And as you know, I don't really believe in ascension. I think it's another, bunch of crap that people have been sold. And a lot of people are experiencing what is being put out there as ascension symptoms. People have been talking about ascension symptoms for 30, 40 years. And what it is, it's the more polluted thing. You don't think that the chemtrails and the heavy metals in your body aren't going to make you dizzy and sick and mess your kidneys up? You don't think that the smart meters on your building that are way higher in radiation aren't going to fragment your DNA so that your body can't replicate itself, your body can't regenerate itself? So, be really careful about these beliefs that you're subscribing into. And ascension is just another word for Jesus, that Jesus is going to come here and save you. And you know what? I hope people can find some kind of resolution with themselves, that they may actually like themselves enough that they may want to actually save themselves, and that they may actually want to save this planet. This planet is way older than we are. And for us to be treating this planet and allowing other people to treat this planet the way that we're treating it is so wrong, that if the ETs wipe human life off the planet, that would be the main reason that I would ask that happen. I would ask, I tell my star family all the time that, maybe one of the only ways to save this planet for the other universes and the other people that would like to use this planet for good, other than us, that, maybe the option is to wipe us all out, because people on this planet cannot seem to wake up to actually respect this planet and their home and fight for it. And that disgusts me. I mean, I'm pretty disgusted with that. All right, I'm sorry it's a rant and rave, but I've just had so much stuff on my mind, and so much stuff that I'm working through and processing, and I get sometimes resentful that I end up having to process group consciousness of other people on this planet, because sometimes it just hammers you so badly and makes your life so terrible for weeks on end when you decide to open the door, say, on sadness, and it all comes flowing in, all the people who have massive sadness that can't do their own personal emotional work on this planet. And then you just open the door to process your sadness, and the door gets kicked open, and now you've got 100 million people that you're processing their sadness, and you have to try to shut the door and close it, and then not go there on working on your own personal sadness, because it's so extreme. And nobody wants to deal with their emotional stuff in this day and age. And in shamanism, or the teachings and the lessons, especially with the native people, one of the number one things I've learned about is the emotional component. There is no manifestation without the emotional component. If your emotional body is over in China, it's not even connected to you, you are not going to be able to manifest anything good or bad. You're going to stay stuck exactly where you're at, and it may be a different phase, a different event, but it's going to be the same circle and cycle of the same crap over and over and over and over and over again. The one thing that I could recommend to the mass consciousness is do yourself a favor. Find someone that you can start doing your personal emotional work with to get your emotional body closer to your physical body, so that you can actually start making a difference by using your consciousness to do so. All right. Hopefully in the future, I'll be able to post some videos. I think I'm actually going to be doing more writing But that's Bridget Lynn Dolgoff, Conscious of Economics, an Urban Farm Project. And again, I'm sorry, but you know, there's just a point where it's not nice anymore, and the truth is more valuable than how it's presented or how it looks. And that's all I've got for you. Thanks so much. Have a great day. Bye-bye.